So Kathy, by the end of this week, how many times will you have run over that big name Hollywood celebrity with your ATV?
Well, counting all the rehearsals we've done this week and the one shooting day this week, probably about 40 times by the end of the week.
So you're a stunt woman, and you're driving the ATV. I would have thought that the stunt woman would be getting hit by the ATV.
Well, there is a stunt man being hit.
Right.
And he's
you're not
doubling.
actually... Okay, who is this Hollywood guy that you're...
I can't actually say, because until it's released in theaters, we're not allowed to publicize anything about the... But it's a big name action hero.
Okay.
And a friend of mine, he's stunt doubling the big name, and he's doing a wicked bicycle stunt, and I run him over with the ATV, and I'm rescuing the children, so I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old on the back.
Is this a real 3-year-old and 8-year-old? Or
3-year-old
like dummies?
dummy and an 8-year-old stunt double, yes.
I was just listening to something by Aaron Sorkin talking about filming with newborns. And basically, newborns are only allowed to be on screen or under the lights for like 20 seconds. So if you've got a scene with newborns in Hollywood, there's actually a room with 20 nursing mothers and 20 newborns, and they just swap them in and out.
Swap them in and out. And when it's children, because of their hours rules as well, they always use twins, so they can swap them in and out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried to get my kids into doing extra work, but it's complete crap because, yes, they pay them, I don't know, $14 an hour, which is pretty good for the kid.
For kids,
But then the adult needs to be on set for the whole time.
Sometimes 18 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What am I getting paid for that? Nothing.
Looking after your kids.
Exactly.
And they get paid. Yeah, it's fun though.
Yeah. Well, it's good experience.
Yeah.
But we're getting diverted. So, Judo, black belt in Judo for 37 years, is that right?
About that, yeah.
Okay.
You're telling my age, but yeah.
Well, you started when you were 1.
Right, yes. We'll say that. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually
Making
how I
you
got my...
36.
Right, yes. We're going with
Jiu-Jitsu
that.
math.
Yeah. I love the jiu-jitsu math. Perfect. Yeah, that's actually how I got my start in stunts. Because of the judo background, they were canvassing all the dojos in the Lower Mainland trying to find a girl who could be beat up for this movie called The Stepfather. And I kind of just went out for it and got picked, amazingly. And I couldn't believe it. I got beat up all day and paint jars smashed on my head and my hair pulled and dragged down the hallway and punched and everything, and I got this huge paycheck. I was like, this is glorious. What an awesome career.
So you were 12?
13.
13?
Yeah.
And you'd been doing Judo for...
I was a blue belt at the time, so I'd been doing... Blue or brown belt? I'd been doing Judo since I was 8 at that point. And I just won the junior national championships at that time.
Okay.
And the next year I actually won the senior national championships.
Awesome. So then, did you do more stunts right away?
A little bit. So remember The Wise Guy and MacGyver and 21 Jump Street TV series? That was through my teenage years in the 80s.
So anytime they needed a blonde girl to
be beat up.
thrown off of a deck.
Or because of the Judo, the break falls, of course. So I was getting thrown a lot on the sidewalk or out of a car or that type of thing. And then, I got a pretty good break in Rumble in the Bronx.
I remember that. I remember that.
Way back.
Rumble in the Bronx, meaning New York.
Yeah.
Meaning it was filmed in Vancouver.
Yeah, you can see the Science World ball in the background in all the scenes. They needed a girl who could ride a motocross bike over 25 cars. So not knowing if I could do that, because I don't just pull my car to the driveway and practice running over it with my motocross bike. But basically I'd been racing flat track for quite a number of years at that point. And
in addition to the Judo.
Yeah, and riding all my life. My dad brought me up with motorcycles, so I was really fortunate to have that experience. And they said, well, do you think you can do this? And let's find out, kind of a thing. And me and another amazing stunt woman, her name is Melissa, went out and we were set with the cars, and I was first. And we just did it in a 2-car split for the first one. And that's when I found out I could ride over cars.
Okay.
And they said 3, 2, 1 action, and off I went and came down. And then we started stacking the cars end to end all the way along till it was the 25 cars.
Now you hear some crazy stories about sort of the Hong Kong movie stunt industry as opposed to the LA stunt industry, right? I mean, high falls being done onto a mattress with a bunch of cardboard boxes under it as opposed to a proper crash mat.
Yep.
So when they filmed Rumble in the Bronx, which was it? Was it like the sort of old school Chinese
A little bit. It was kind of a little of both, because he brought his JC stunt team with him from Hong Kong.
The Jackie Chan stunt team.
Yeah, and they were fantastic, but they could take hits, and they were amazing at fights. But they would grab something, a pinball machine and a pool cue, and make a fight scene, and 2 pop cans. And then Jackie would practice the flipping of the pop cans with the pool cue and the pinball machine. And they just made stuff up as they went along. On the fly. But they would practice it so intricately and to such perfection that the pop can had to be flipped exactly this way. So the pool cue comes across this way. And it was fascinating to watch. They were just integrated in such synergy. It was amazing to watch every day on set.
I guess that crew works together. I mean, how many movies has Jackie Chan produced? It's got to be north of 100.
A lot. And before, when he was in Asia, he was a huge star, but this was kind of his breakout movie that made him in North America. So we were all in the Lower Mainland excited and just honored to be a part of it. It wasn't even a union show, so normally we wouldn't take it, but it was, we're working with Jackie Chan.
Right.
So we were all so honored, and it was an amazing, we became like a family.
That's where he broke his ankle jumping onto the hovercraft.
Yep. And we both got injured on that set.
How'd you get injured?
It was on the last take of the last day going over the last car, and we wanted it just to have a big air kind of a situation. And then I grabbed the drugs money and I wave it in the air. And so this was the scene. So we basically put some traction on the roof of the Jeep to get some big air. And I had everything padded up to here, old school, but Cooperalls for padding here, and knee pads. And of course, everything was padded, all the poles and stuff around, except there was this spigot sticking out, or the attached fire hose. And of course, it hit that one spot that wasn't padded right there through my leg.
The one thing that wasn't padded
just a severe
hit the one
hematoma,
part.
But it was. I was down and out for a couple of weeks, and then I was back on set, and I was in the fight scenes after that.
Okay.
And Jackie and I were hobbling around on our crutches one day on set together, and he's like, "Oh, you'd be a big star because you make the blooper reel." I was so excited. He put me in the bloopers.
Did being in the bloopers actually help your stunt career?
I'm not sure. But for sure, people remembered me after that. And I've kind of done stunts on and off throughout the last 30 years since. So
every person I know who's in stunts and has been in stunts for a long time, their body is destroyed.
Yeah. That's why I've been in and out, not full on.
But you're also doing judo, and every person I know who's been doing judo for decades, their body is destroyed. So I'm not, yes, it might have gotten you the job initially because you could fall, but you got destroyed in both sports or both arts because you could fall.
That's what got my start for sure. But then as a stunt performer, you end up learning a lot of other skills, mainly from the other stunt performers, and you start hanging out at the places where they are. Acro gym 3 nights a week, gymnastics places, you go stunt driving out on a rainy night, everybody just rents a slide car and practices.
When you say rent a slide, you mean like a rental car?
So you actually get a rental
years
car.
Ago. You're not endorsing this.
No, I wouldn't highly recommend, but in order to practice slides, we don't want to wreck our own cars. We rent a car, and then you put a little, back then, piece of tape over the e-brake, and then you just basically practice over and over and over your e-brake slides, your 180s, your reverse 180s, your full 360s, and everybody has fun.
Where? Just out on some stretch of road or a driveway?
Parking lots and wherever the cops aren't. So I shouldn't be saying this, but that's how we all kind of learned how to do stunt driving. And of course there's courses. We would go to LA. There's a fantastic stunt driving course down there. You do level 1, 2, and 3. We do that, of course, and there's formal training, but you really can't, for example, a fire stunt, you can't just go practice that and rehearse that. So you usually do your first fire stunt on set. And you're with the guidance of everybody helping you do your first fire stunt. And then if you love it and everything is good with it.
Have you done fire stunts?
I've just done one good one on Smallville. I was the regular double for Allison Mack. She was the Chloe character. And it was kind of fun. The desk was on fire and all the stuff on top of it was on fire. And then I was from here up on fire as I dove over the desk. A front rolling, jumping, forward rolling break fall. So judo again. Yeah, I had to dive over the desk and do a front rolling break fall.
So, okay, take me through a fire stunt. Your whole body, you're there, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
How do you not actually die?
There's a lot of precautions. They soak the underwear in fire gel overnight that you put on. They're like long johns, and you put that on and it's soaked overnight. So it's got so much fire gel, and your ears are covered in fire gel, and up your nose, and every crevice, and your hair, and everything.
Is it your real face, or are you wearing a mask on top of it?
No, not in this case, because it wasn't a full body burn or anything. But in this case, you're covered in fire gel in every crevice they can possibly stick the fire gel, and then it's 3, 2, 1 action, and they light you and go. And there's usually a fire crew standing by, and you watch your stunt coordinator for the go.
What about the face? Is that smeared in fire gel?
Smeared in fire gel.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's just like a water-based gel to
to
absorb some of
protect.
the heat?
Yep, absorb the heat. And the odd stunt performer certainly has been singed.
Sure. How do you keep all your hair?
Usually so much fire gel on it that there's no way it could possibly be singed.
So basically we've just given the recipe for doing your home fire
But
stunts.
don't do it at home. There was an interesting one last year that I was a part of that he's a fantastic stunt performer, and he had to play the monk in the middle of the square that just starts meditating and then lights himself on fire.
In the Vietnam War?
It was recreation. It's called The Man in the High Castle. And this stunt performer was fantastic.
I've not seen, that's an adaptation of Philip K. Dick book.
I believe so, yeah.
I've not seen it. Next time I break a major bone, I'll
Yes, catch up on your novels.
Yeah.
It was good because, you know, all we were stunt pedestrians doing a cross, you know, and so you think, oh, you just got paid for walking, basically, but he's here and you're near the fire stunt and you're basically his protection to make sure that nothing goes wrong. And they can't have a background performer just scooting through because it's a busy square with lots of background performers. So the inner sort of stunt people around the person.
What are you going to do if something goes wrong? Do you have a fire extinguisher?
Well, they have a fire crew ready. But the point is, you can't have a background performer doing that cross over to camera B in case they just suddenly go this way or something. So they have a stunt pedestrian, and it sounds ridiculous just to go walk from here to there getting paid stunt pay.
But the odds are the consequences of something going wrong with that guy lighting himself on fire pretty high. Right. So they need you, at the very least, to get the hell out of the way.
3 or 4 stunt pedestrians in the way, just to, help out.
Kathy Hubble, stunt pedestrian.
I can walk from A to B. As I get older, I think I like those type of jobs. It's all good.
What's the craziest stunt you've ever done? I think starting out with driving a motocross bike over 25 cars is pretty crazy.
That was a fun one. That one was good. I've done a lot of motorcycle stunts. That's kind of my wheelhouse. This one that I'm doing this week is my wheelhouse again with the quads and the bikes. But I remember one.
So I guess you just have to hit the stunt guy. Do you actually hit him, or do you just drive by him and then they high wire him?
He's being ratcheted out of the way.
Okay.
And his bicycle is being ratcheted out of the way as I come close.
Okay, so you don't actually...
So it looks like it's a hit.
Because of the camera angle.
Yeah.
It's like selling a punch.
Right.
Okay.
Same thing. There was an interesting one that it was a fall. I was hanging off the side of the Luther Mansion and playing the Chloe character, Smallville. And it was just a simple back fall, but everything sounds simple until it's on the day. And then there's the rain machine, and then there's the people, you've got your background performers all around, the nerves start. The night before I had gone and done a bunch of 33-foot back falls in, just at the gym.
Casually, yeah.
You just, find a gymnasium that allows you to go off the basketball hoop or something into porta pits. Knee practice, so you don't clamshell and things like that. Because it's just, what was different about this one was there was a hidden box pit. So we often fall into boxes.
Right.
If it's a big, high...
Like a box full of those foam blocks?
Nope, just empty boxes. So you get the 2x2 boxes and you stack them. And then you put a layer of flats on top, tie it off, and the stunt crew will all put this together for you. But the thing about this one was it was hidden in the ground, and then the leaves and the dirt over top.
Oh, okay.
So I'm looking back, and
it
usually
looks like the ground.
And usually you can see your airbag or your target, but it was just the ground. And this was one of my first big high falls ever, and it wasn't even that high. No. But I was nervous. And then the stunt coordinator came up to me, he's hanging out the window. He's, "What's going on, Hubble?" And I go, "Oh, I don't know." And he's a fantastic stunt man and coordinator. He goes, "Oh, what's there to it?" Bing! And he flies out the window and lands in the box pit. And yes, it was a big to-do to get that box pit all set up again. But you know what? That was exactly what I needed. As soon as I saw it and his confidence was there and how easy it was, the next take I was ready and able. So that was about the most nervous I'd been on a stunt.
I guess back in the day in the 70s, there were like really high falls. And I don't know, 60, 70, 80 foot high falls maybe. Yeah. But now I guess over a certain distance it's all CGI. Like it's amazing that was not just CGI'd.
Yeah, no, actually a lot of high falls are still just practically done.
Really?
Yeah, gymnasts and specialists that are really good at high falls. It's always better if you can do the actual thing instead of using CGI, if possible. And there's also the aid of wires a lot more used now. There's descenders and things like that. So The use of wires has come into play a lot more these days, and which is great because you can be flung against the wall in a ratchet, or you can do a big high fall with a descender, and it looks just as real.
They just have to speed it up a little bit?
Sometimes, depending, yeah. But we try to do it as practically as possible, as often as possible.
How does like a descender work? Like you're wearing it as a hidden belt, or do they like CGI out your...
All the wires are CGI'd out, and this pull, you drop, and just before you hit the ground, for example, if it's a ground hit, it'll shoo.
Okay.
And I know a friend of mine, he's an amazing stuntman, he went into like a face plant style one, and it just looks like he face plants. It's amazing. It's the best. I'll show you that later.
So it's like 10th degree bungee jumping.
Yeah. And it's like a millimeter off the concrete when it's shoo. So
wow.
It's cool. It's a heart stopper sometimes.
I bet.
Yeah, to watch, let alone to do. It's fun. I have great respect for those stuntmen that can do that.
So what's the worst you've ever been hurt doing stunts? Like you banged your leg up pretty bad.
Been okay, actually. One of the few that have been injury-free virtually.
Find wood and knock on it.
I know, quickly. Just that rumble in the Bronx when the motorcycle stunt, and a couple little things here and there, but we're always being banged and bruised and shook up and that sort of thing. But a lot of my friends I know have been badly hurt. So I've been really fortunate and lucky. I've been in and out of the industry for the past 35 years, and knock on wood, I'm back in for the last little while full-time and having a good time doing it, but I'm being very careful a lot more in these aging years.
Well, let's talk about the judo. So what got you into judo in the first place?
My two older brothers were doing it, and of course I wanted to do it. My mom was trying to get me into ballet and tap dancing, and I was in Highland dancing and figure skating, and always running me around in pink tutus, and I was like, I just want to do judo like my brothers. It's not fair. Why can't I get on the mat? So I would sit mat side and wait. And back then, 8 years old and up for judo, you couldn't join before you were 8 years old. So I would sit and just watch my brothers, and that's all I wanted to do in life. And as soon as, actually I wasn't quite 8 years old, but my sensei at the time, he said, yeah, she's been here for years watching her brothers, and let me in at like 7.5.
Right. We won't tell anyone. We won't tell. We got people list of the things we won't tell anyone. The renting cars to practice your slides.
Yeah.
And you getting into judo, because that could have serious ramifications here, Kathy.
I know. Nobody should know my age.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more your sensei could get in trouble. But,
that's true. Yeah, that's true too.
Okay, so you started judo at 8.
Yep.
But
just about 8, and so
I loved it. You think watching it all those years helped you?
I think so. Watching my brothers and wanting to do it and seeing the basics, Osoto Gary, I knew it before I even got on the mats because I was watching them do it for so many years, and all I wanted to do was be able to beat up my older brothers. So I was so excited when we could actually scrap on the mat, and it was randori time. And
how much older were they?
So 3 years older and 3 years old. So 3 years and 6 years older.
Okay, so that's a bit of a high bar to clear for an 8-year-old.
I know. By about like 12, I was finally able to beat them.
Okay, because had they quit?
They just quit after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You made them quit.
No, I didn't make them quit. They just lost interest, found girls.
No.
But at the time it was my big passion. I loved judo. It was everything I could eat and drink and sleep and breathe judo and never get enough of it. And my first competition, because they didn't have a lot of girls, it was against boys. And I loved that too. So I got a big trophy, and I was so excited I put it under my pillow and slept with it.
So you're that girl who beat up guys.
I know. I loved
Talk about a no-win situation for the boys who were in your division.
They just treat you like your sister, so it wasn't such a... Same with, in Jiu-Jitsu nowadays, we're just, pretend I'm your little sister, let's just roll. It's not, I'm a girl, you're a guy, let's just roll.
Yeah, but competition's different. Either you smash the girl and you look like an asshole, or she taps you out and you've been emasculated.
I wouldn't want to be a guy nowadays, in general.
Sure, yeah. I think the number of tripwires that we can run afoul of.
Yeah. Always in trouble.
That would be a whole nother conversation.
There's a whole nother conversation. That's a touchy one, though.
Whatever. If people don't like what they're getting, they can get their money back for this podcast. And they can apply.
That's true.
So why wouldn't you want to be, or go that way. Why wouldn't you want to be a guy now?
There's so many things a guy has to be careful of nowadays. not just with the whole Me Too movement, of course, but
which is
in jiu-jitsu,
totally legitimate.
100% legitimate.
But I mean, it changes.
I would hate to be a male teacher nowadays.
Yeah.
Just I'm thinking about the times that I was taken aside by my male teachers growing up, and we'd have one-on-ones, and there was never any intention, of course, but had I been malicious at all, I could have made up anything I wanted, and I was in that room with my male teacher by myself.
Well,
so.
then it would have been ignored, which
Right,
I'm sure
then.
people suffered because of that. I mean, I'm just looking through some stuff on the residential school system here in Canada, which was essentially run by priests and nuns for Native kids who were ripped apart from their families, and there was a ton of abuse.
Oh,
I don't think you could set up a better system for abuse. But at the same time, I'm sure innocent people have been caught up in accusations of abuse as well. So similar there, had you made up some stuff about your teacher back when you were growing up, you probably would have been ignored.
Yeah.
Now you'd be, that teacher would be put on desk duty, and I don't know exactly what would happen, but it would be way worse for him.
And the guys in jiu-jitsu even, they've got a tough spot because we can do whatever. We can smash, we can goon, we can tap them out, we can, but you're right, it's kind of a no-win situation sometimes for the guy.
I just needed competition.
Yeah. But even in practice you see it. The guy really smashes hard on a girl, well, that's okay. If we're at that level that we say, yep, that's what we're doing, and we bump fists and let's go hard, sure. If I get smashed, I accept it, whether it's a girl or a guy. Doesn't make a difference to me. It's my brother. But it does make a difference sometimes the bystanders or people that maybe aren't in jiu-jitsu or those that take offense or the poor guy that he smashes the girl, she was okay with it.
Yeah, and somebody else takes offense on her behalf.
Right. And what are you doing smashing a girl?
Yeah.
And it's,
I thought we
he
were all
can't
equal.
win. Yeah, we're supposed to be equal, so it's okay. But the guy, he can't win.
Yeah.
So...
Okay, so you had some
we digress.
That's what this is all about, digression. So you had some big early wins in judo.
Yeah, I was really lucky. I was fortunate to grow up in
I think maybe working hard also had something to
I
do with
love judo so much. I was always working hard at it, and I couldn't wait for practice every Tuesday and Thursday. And
it was just 2 days a week?
Yeah, back then it was... as little kids, Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's it. And as I grew more into, I was on the national team, and after winning nationals, then it was a little more, for sure.
Like how much more?
But it was...
3 days a week?
No, about 4.
Okay.
But it wasn't like, how now in jiu-jitsu,
for sure,
we're going twice a day, every day, 7 days a week, plus, an open mats extra on a Sunday. And it's quite different, the two sports, that I'm finding. But also the intensity of... Jiu-jitsu, yes, it can be super intense, but there's a lot of flow to it, and flow rolling. Whereas in judo, we're doing a lot of impact and throw for throw, so your body just can't take twice a day, every day.
And the sparring is harder. I mean, I think that was my big problem in judo back when I was doing a lot of judo.
Right.
So I kind of approached it a little bit like a jiu-jitsu thing.
Okay.
Like, hey, let's just flow. But really, when you do a judo throw,
it's hard to flow.
Yeah, there are a few that you can do sort of slower, and those were the ones I was good at. But really, I realized this late in my judo career, no, they're just really violent movements that you have to do as fast as you possibly can.
Explosive.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's, I think, the explosive, that word kind of epitomizes most judo throws. And jiu-jitsu certainly has intensity, but I guess the word explosive isn't used often in jiu-jitsu. More it's flow and smooth and technique. We have smooth and we have technique also in judo, but you can't help it. There's no stopping midair.
Yeah.
So it's impact.
There's no doing an uchimata slowly.
No, not really, unless you're Iliadis.
Yeah, well, okay. Every rule has got its exceptions,
That's
and
right.
those people are going to burn in hell because they can do things.
They're so good. Yeah.
So when it comes to the groundwork, what do you think the big differences are between judo and jiu-jitsu? I mean, I've done both, groundwork in both, but I was a bit biased because the judo club that I was at did a lot of groundwork.
Oh,
and
lucky.
They did it more like jiu-jitsu.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So classically, what's judo groundwork like?
So I grew up in the judo era in the 80s where there wasn't a lot of Ne-waza groundwork. It was 5-10 minutes of each practice kind of a thing, and an hour and a half practice, but it was certainly no guard position, how to do anything from your butt. It just didn't exist. And
well, but it did. Like if you look at the judo books from Japan in that era, like Vital Judo and those ones that are like 200 books on Amazon, $200 on Amazon now.
Yeah.
200 books on Amazon.
Kosen Judo.
Yeah. There are books showing a lot of the modern jiu-jitsu techniques, including stuff like spider guard, including stuff like De La Riva. But I think it was so little part of competition that why would you focus on that? I mean,
I think so, and depending on the club that you grew up in and the country that you grew up in, you would get more jiu-jitsu style of judo Ne-waza. And for example, the club I grew up in, like I say, 5-10 minutes of every practice, and we were just knee fighting.
Right.
There was no guard. But other clubs I knew around, they did a lot of from the guard, or they even were practicing like De La Riva and stuff back then. So,
but almost why would you? Because I mean, something like De La Riva guard is mostly against somebody who's standing. Yeah. And if we're going and you throw me, but it's not a great throw and you don't win the match, and I not put you in my guard and you stand up, I mean, we get restarted.
It's a mate and you're recentered. Yeah, exactly.
So why would you focus on that? There's no incentive.
That's
really.
right. And that's, I think, in my club, why it was only 5 or 10 minutes of every workout. And if that, and we were just on our knees fighting. So...
the one escape to every pin was to turn to your belly and grab your collar.
That's right. The turtle was my favorite. Because you stay in turtle for 2 seconds and you stood up again. Yeah. At least in that era. Nowadays, huge difference. They're actually allowing time for Ne-waza. If it shows progression, the ref is letting it go.
So, just for the people who are listening, define what progression would look like. Okay, you throw me, I turn out, I'm on my knees, maybe you got a quarter point.
Yeah, half point now.
Okay.
Yep, Wazari and Ippon are the only points in Judo now.
See, that shows my era of Judo.
We had Yukos and Kokas back in our day, Now there's just Wazari and Ippon.
Also, we were allowed to grab legs, and
I know.
all my Judo pros now wouldn't work.
Me too.
I'd be banned right away.
I loved the old leg grab Judo. It was fantastic. And then when I had a break from Judo and came back to Judo for Masters World Championships in Abu Dhabi, it was everything I could do to not drop my hand to do that coaching. I had to hang on tight because I was so used to the leg grab version. But
you would have taken the person down perfectly and
it would have been a Nippon.
Yeah.
Oh, but if I leg grabbed, I would have gotten DQ'd.
Yeah.
Exactly.
10 years ago, you would have won automatically, and now you would be DQ'd.
DQ'd, yeah. And actually, they've changed that again, which is one of the
I can't keep track.
Discrepancies that a lot of people are a little upset with, because in Judo, they changed the rule book about every Olympic cycle. And because we're an Olympic sport, they see what it does and how the audience reacts and everything at an Olympics, base all their findings on it, and then they seem to change the rule book again. So we had leg grabs, and then leg grabs were out, and an immediate hansukamake, which is DQ. And then now they're allowing 2 sort of warning penalties for a leg grab, and then you get DQ'd.
So if I do a leg grab on you and take you down, do I get the points for the takedown and a warning, or I just get warned?
You get warned.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that, because I know guys were getting disqualified for doing throws and basically the hand would just brush the leg.
And it would be an immediate DQ.
Yeah, like it was not part of the throw. It was just a hand happened to drift down there.
Brushed it and you were DQ'd. That's been eliminated. Too many complaints about it.
Fair enough.
They change it a lot in Judo. The rule book is this thick. And we try to keep up. This is why I'm not a referee in Judo. Yeah. I tried it for a bit and I couldn't keep up with the rules. They're changing so often. But, it's good.
It's really hard to become a Judo referee. A friend of mine was trying to work his way up the system. Yeah. And he was spending thousands of dollars because they got this point system where you got to go fly to this tournament, then fly to that tournament. And you get this many points for regional and this many points for national.
You have to buy your own suit.
Yeah.
And it's a suit.
Yeah.
Yep. And you have to pay all your own way to everything.
Yeah. And it was like, I can't afford.
I think you get a free lunch.
Oh, well, okay. That
it's worth it. But again, there's the differences, Judo and Jiu-Jitsu. You're finding right from the grassroots and up, right through to refereeing, it's a lot about we're taught to give back. Right from white belt to black belt. We're giving back. And this is the gentle way, the Judo way.
Gentle way, my ass.
I know. I know. I'm all about good Judo. But it is true. You would go to a jiu-jitsu tournament and you'd get a free shirt that says referee on the back, and you'd have a lunch and maybe even $200 for the day, and maybe your expenses paid as a BJJ ref. And Judo, you buy your own suit. It has to be a suit, and it's all according to the IJF rules. And you pay your own way everywhere. It takes a long time to build up to become a D and then a C referee and then a B to be able to referee at each tournament. So there's a lot of the differences in Jiu-Jitsu and Judo right to the refereeing level.
Right. Well, let's just talk about the groundwork again, because there's a certain energy that judo guys have on the ground. If they get on top, they're really heavy. And they don't typically move. They are there and they're pinning until, like, there could be an earthquake and they're going to be, the roof could cave in.
That's right.
And they're could be found underneath
the rubble.
A block
of concrete.
Yeah.
I know.
So
and I'm that way. And
okay.
I have been that way all along. Because I came from the era of, it's only 20 seconds. If you pin the opponent, you win the match.
Yeah. If you pin me in what jiu-jitsu terms would be cross-side or the mount or kezugatami or one of the other pinning positions.
Yep. Any pinning position that's considered a judo pinning position, 20 seconds, you win the match. So we're taught to immediately become a block of concrete on top of the person and no space at all. The pressure is unbelievable, like we talked about before, asphyxiating. And sometimes we've had, in my competitions anyway, girls want to tap out from that pressure. But because of moving into jiu-jitsu, I've learned you have to move around. You can't just stay stationary on top of someone. And this is a judoka moving into jiu-jitsu's usual problem, especially if you're from an era that just did that style of judo, gun judo I call it. And so we do learn to flow eventually. You know, I'm purple belt in jiu-jitsu now, and so I've learned a little bit of flow. I'm still very gun judo, and old lady strength that I'm using, but I am learning to flow a bit better. And of course, you don't want to get stalling penalties. So, but it is a different style.
But it's funny because there definitely there's a style of judo that really does that throw to submission transition amazingly well. I think Neil Adams.
Oh, he's fantastic. Yeah, Neil Adams from the UK.
Yeah.
His ground transitions are magic.
Yeah.
If you look him up anytime, actually he's going to be coming in on the Never Tie belt.
Oh, really?
Soon.
Awesome.
Yeah. He's from the UK. Look him up.
Awesome.
He's an amazing Olympian, and his ground transitions are brilliant. He makes a throw directly, and this is what I think we have to teach a lot of practitioners in jiu-jitsu, is straight from the throw into the submission immediately with that flow. And judoka, we're all terrible at it. We throw and then stop in the glory for a moment, and then by that time, so that's
well, I think in judo it comes from I've thrown you, hopefully I've got nippon, hopefully the match is over, hopefully I've got my full point. If life is good and the referees are willing, then
it's a nippon and the match is over.
Whereas in jiu-jitsu, we're so used to fighting past the guard and stabilizing for 3 seconds to get the points that if we get a takedown, then we still want to stabilize. We still want to go there. Okay, stabilize.
Exactly.
But that's when the guy's losing his mind on the bottom, trying to escape. So really, that does open up a whole bunch of submission opportunities.
Absolutely. So. Yeah. If you can go straight from your throw into your submission, and judoka are, like you say, bad at that as well because we're looking for the ippon. And that's what I teach my kids all the time at judo is ground transition straight from there, either into the pin or into some sort of submission. But
like typically the armbar or the jujigatami.
Jujigatami is the most common, depending on their position. But I think a judoka would go for a pin most often, and then while pinning, sometimes a submission comes up. It's not super common, and you watch most of the IJF judo, you see submissions, but it's a lot more common to see the hold down for the win than the armbar or the choke. Those are on the highlight reels.
Or on, when Travis Stevens goes and competes. But
that's true. Yeah. He's amazing. Yes, his submissions are magic.
Yeah, it was a really nice style of Ne-waza that he brought to judo, and quite foreign, I think, to most of the people that he was going against, which has probably helped explain why he did so well.
And he's a jiu-jitsu black belt as well, so this is why, he cross-trains every day, both. And I think everybody should. Every judoka should do jiu-jitsu, and every jiu-jitsu person should be practicing at least a couple times a week at a judo club to enhance each art.
You see, I would agree with you, except for the fact that judo has got so many injuries associated with it.
Yeah, you can, it depends on the club you join, but you can go into a club that's a little more recreational, and it's not all about ground and pound and throwing, and the old school judo where we did 1,000 throws in a practice is kind of gone by the wayside. There's some clubs still doing it, but we now try to, at least the clubs that I know, are practicing a lot more Ne-waza because nowadays the rules are allowing for Ne-waza. So a jiu-jitsu person could come into a judo tournament now and do quite well because they're allowing time on the ground for Ne-waza. But also, not just more Ne-waza is being practiced in most of the judo clubs around the world because of the rule change, but also we're not doing as much throw for throw and impact style because of the attrition rate. Yeah. So, yeah, in the 80s,
all that
90s.
Bouncing off the mats is going to add up. Like, my back was never as bad as when I was doing judo, and the better my break falls got, the worse my back
felt.
Yeah. If I could twist out, kind of land in a huddled mass, not with a proper slap, not on my side, my back wouldn't hurt as much as if I did it perfectly. You know, then I boom slap.
And were you like the cat in the air doing the huge?
Yeah, but it also worked against me because that was also in the era, and I don't know enough about judo history, but I think there was a time when if you threw me through the air and I put my hands on the ground, I cartwheeled and I landed on my feet, you'd get no points or very few points. And so guys were doing this, and like it either worked or you would dislocate your shoulder.
Yeah, or
shatter your forearm.
Yeah. You see a lot of those turnouts turn out into an injury.
Yeah.
So that's not so much anymore.
Yeah, because I think they got rid of it.
The bridging that you would bang your head over and bridge out is now illegal. So you actually get a nippon against if you do that. So
finally, I actually think that a judo rule change is a good change.
A good thing, yes, definitely. And most judo clubs you'll find that you'll join, there'll be obviously the impact style, really old school judo clubs that you can join, and they're hardcore, and let's do throw for throw and randori for 2 hours straight, round after round. But you need a bit of that for sure. You have to do randori in a judo practice to learn competition style. But now it's a lot about the flow. I think judo has learned a lot from jiu-jitsu, and they see the jiu-jitsu numbers around the world going up and judo numbers going down, and so judo has incorporated a lot of the style of jiu-jitsu, which is a little more flow, a lot less injuries.
How is that mandated? Is that just done at a club-by-club basis? Some instructor going, well, I've been doing judo for 20 years, and that guy down the street's been doing jiu-jitsu for 10, and he's got twice the students, they pay 10 times as much as I do, as mine do.
Yeah.
So is that mandated at the club level, or is this coming from the International Judo Federation?
Well, certainly the rules, the IJF made all the rules changes, and that was to, again, they said
incentivizes how the class structure.
Yeah, and then the sensei started realizing, then my numbers are going down, and this guy over here that on the street corner opened up a year ago and has triple the numbers, and he's charging huge amounts. So for sure, the club by club as well as from IJF, and then Judo Canada, for example. And the more Ne-waza has really increased numbers because jiu-jitsu are coming over to judo because they can do their jiu-jitsu. It's slightly modified. We actually now have Ne-waza competitions.
I've heard about this.
Yeah, it's new.
Kind of return to Kosen type judo.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And the point system is similar to BJJ, where it's 2 points for taking the back, not 4. But
oh wow.
Yeah, there's different points, but a lot of the similar moves that you would get points for in jiu-jitsu, you get points for in Ne-waza judo competitions.
Well, back in the day, my old judo coach used to say the way to fix judo, from a combative point of view, was to make taking the back, getting your hooks in, a pin. Like if that was considered a pin, like Tateshio or something, one of the regular judo pins, then judo, the style would change. So they've essentially done that.
Somewhat. Yeah. I mean, there's still regular judo competitions.
What submissions are legal and illegal in the Ne-waza only competitions?
So pretty much anything you see in jiu-jitsu, you can do in judo.
Not leg locks.
Wrist locks and leg locks. Okay. But I mean, most chokes and arm bars, you should be able to do in a judo Ne-waza competition. There's not, this scraping across the face with the gi type of thing.
Am I allowed to push your face with my hand, or is that still verboten?
It's still verboten. Yeah. But in Ne-waza, I just watched my first Ne-waza competition the other day.
Are you going to go compete in these?
I'm thinking about it. Yeah. It's really tempting because they now have it at Canadian Nationals. And
will you start on your knees?
Yep, it's actually in this position. One knee up, one knee down. You're the opposite. We take our grips, and the referee says, "Hajime."
So we just can't stand up. So you could pull guard.
You could totally pull guard. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And everything from there, it looks a lot like jiu-jitsu, except there's stiff judoka doing it. So it's
maybe I should get back into competition.
And the jiu-jitsu guys are coming over to judo now because of it, which is fantastic. So the numbers are up in judo. There's a lot more Ne-waza, a lot more groundwork. Guard is being practiced now in judo clubs across the world. So it's
I can just hear the people screaming, going, we've always had the guard in judo. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
you've
true.
always had the
That's
guard in
true.
judo, but it hasn't been incentivized.
That's true.
And that which is not, there's also a Ne-waza. There's also punching in judo.
In the original, yeah.
But it's not been incentivized. So
No.
I'm going to go out there on a limb and say that judo people, unless they've trained in Kyokushin karate or boxing, are crappy punchers.
Yeah, that's very true. That
Even
is
though
very
it's
true.
part of judo.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Judo came from Japanese Jiu-Jitsu,
Mm-hmm.
and then in 1882 with Dr. Jigodo Kano, and then Judo, the gentle way, was then derived into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
By
and then,
one route or another. The way that
Yeah.
that's been, like the mythology that we've been fed, that
Yeah.
you know, Helio studied at the feet of Maeda, is probably wrong. I think Henzo Gracie just came out and said, like, no, this is not what happened.
Right.
And
There's
you
a
know,
lot of controversy on that.
well, I don't think it's controversial anymore, other than people who've got a strict agenda to push, or
Okay.
like their own agenda to push. I mean, they developed something amazing, but even if you develop something amazing, a lot of people feel the need to build mythology around it as well, right? And if you look at the mythology of Jiu-Jitsu, it's very, very similar to the mythological origins of Wing Chun Kung Fu. You know, we kind of laugh at that.
Yeah.
You know, a blind nun saw, this is a stupid story, I'm getting it wrong, but some nun saw a stork fight a frog, and you know, saw how the frog hopped around,
Oh,
and how
wow.
the stork moved and built their system. Like, no, you've got a decent fighting system. You don't need to gussy it up. You don't need to like invent this crazy story about the origin of it. I mean, the judo seems a bit more straightforward, although I'm sure there's origin mythology there as well.
All I know is the story was Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, take out the weapons. Dr. Jigodo Kano used kazushi and maximum effort, or maximum efficiency with minimal effort. Jita Kyoe was born in 1882, and then, as I know it, the Gracies popularized it. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu took out a lot of the throws, put the ground Ne-waza basically. And then now it's interesting how it's coming back.
Yep.
Judo is taking on a lot of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu styles, like Ne-waza competitions.
Well, I mean, grappling is grappling. There's only so many ways to bend an arm, and you're constrained by the rule set. And I think it was Eric Paulson. I'm probably going to screw this up. Eric Paulson told me that the place where the heel hook entered into, because in the 80s, in the 90s, typical jiu-jitsu versus Japanese fighter, shuto, or shoot wrestling, or pancrase fighter, they'd fight, and typically 6 times out of 10, the Brazilian guy would shoot in, take the back, choke the Japanese guy out, and 4 times out of 10, the Japanese guy would go for this crazy leg lock that the Brazilian guy didn't know, and break the guy's knee with a heel hook. Like, it was either heel hook or rear naked choke, and if it was a heel hook, the Japanese guy would get it. If it was a rear naked choke, the Brazilian guy would get it. But apparently, the heel hook was introduced to Japan by a Brazilian pro wrestler.
Oh, really?
So it's this incestuous circle. I mean, and now it's crazy. If you come up with a brand new way to do seonage, which you have actually, we filmed another video about it. People should go check that out, the sloppy seonage.
Sloppy seonage. Yeah. I didn't name it after myself, though.
Fair enough. Okay, we'll call it the modified seonage for jiu-jitsu or something.
There we go. That sounds better.
But you know, somebody the day after we published that could see that in Tajikistan, show it to a visiting student from England, who then FaceTimes it to their buddy in Fiji, and next thing you know, you got some Fijian guy doing it. Like the dissemination of information is crazy now. Like tracking who thought of this first is almost impossible.
And naming it after themselves.
Yeah, we should all name it. Basically,
all the moves we come up with should be named after ourselves.
No. Just name all the moves after yourself, regardless of whether you came up after.
And then just Facebook
the Hubble arm bar, the Hubble
Kesting choke. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I was just
the Hubble telescope.
I was reading the De La Riva thing this morning, actually, and I was like fascinated how that all came about. But yeah, no, I'm not going to name that CNA after myself, especially because it's sloppy.
You named a telescope after yourself.
I did not name it, and I have no relation at all. It's been interesting, but I think the evolution of the two sports, the way that they are, both Judo and Jiu-Jitsu, coming up in the world, in France, Judo, for example,
It's huge.
elementary schools, it's part of the curriculum. So in Europe, it's already number 2 sport.
Okay, children, stop smoking. It is
Yeah.
time for judo.
Exactly. I hope they're not smoking in kindergarten.
The way your girl was.
Elementary school curriculum.
No more wine.
Yeah, and they're crazy about judo over there. And in Europe, it's like I said, the second most popular sport.
Well,
So,
I'm going to go out on a limb and predict that there'll be actually, there was no-gi judo competitions. I have a book in which a guy was trying to promote, it was a judo black belt.
Okay.
And I guess he saw the rise of jiu-jitsu and no-gi
Yeah.
grappling and started trying to organize a no-gi judo federation. I don't know if it ever took off.
Interesting. They have the Freestyle Judo Federation,
Okay, what's that?
and it's sort of old school judo rules, like double leg grabs are allowed, and it looks a lot like old school judo with the wrestling and some of the, like the bear hugs aren't allowed anymore, the Georgians and the Eastern Bloc were getting really good at the bear hug, uranagis and things. So everything goes pretty much in the freestyle judo, and there's a huge movement because people want to go back to the old school judo.
Right.
And they're supporting this new freestyle judo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you
it's
competed in
interesting.
that?
No, I haven't. I've just been Googling about it.
Yeah.
And I'm on all the groups with it, and it's quite fascinating.
So, you're wearing a weird little belt.
Oh,
Tell me about it.
Yeah. So from many years of teaching children, one of the things was my pet peeve. It just came up every practice. The children that we are teaching can't seem to tie their belts. And no matter how many times we show them how and spend a lot of class time teaching them and their parents, send the parents home with YouTube homework, they come back to class and they ask the instructor, Sensei, can you please teach me again? Or they come to class disheveled and a mess. Or just around their necks, or they're playing tug of war with them.
For sure.
It's a mess, and it takes a long time to get everybody lined up and bowed in. And then even if all our instructors spend the time to get everybody looking perfect, all the belts are on, and we bow in.
10 seconds later.
Yeah, usually about 5 minutes at the very most, they're all on the floor again, and we have to tie them all over again. So we were spending 70% of our class time just tying instead of teaching. So it kind of drove me nuts. I went out of judo for quite a while, and then back into judo. And I couldn't believe when I started teaching kids classes again, they hadn't addressed this problem. So I just invented the Never Tie Martial Arts belt. And it's a simple concept. You just basically flip, stick, and go. It goes against the child's waist like this, so it can't be grappled off. So the kids look perfect from bow in to bow out. And the instructors can actually teach instead of tie.
How have you found reception of this belt among like jiu-jitsu? Because a lot of jiu-jitsu schools, if I can speak for judo schools, I can. Like they make a fair amount of money off of merchandising, right? Like I get these gis from Pakistan and I sell them at a 4,000% markup, and that's how I make rent.
Right.
Right. And then the belts, I buy for $5 and I sell for 20. So how? Has this made any penetration into the jiu-jitsu space?
For sure. Judo, for sure. I started teaching with the belts about 5 years ago, and a lot of other judo clubs just in the surrounding areas took it on and did basically my testing phase with it. And we kind of made sure it couldn't be grappled off. We have a lot of throws in judo where we're using the belt to throw, like ogoshi or sumigeshi.
Yeah.
So we tested it and tweaked it, and all of my other black belt instructor friends helped me to get it to the point it is so that it can't be grappled off. It's strong, it's easy with small fingers that don't have the dexterity to tie. And then I thought, that's great for, my warm circle, my friends that are helping me out. And even my BJJ friends in my warm circle, they would test it and help me and tweak it, and they would usually buy a 10-pack or a 20-pack to put into their Tiny Tots program, their 3-4-year-old classes, and lots of success. But I wanted to go outside my warm circle, so when I launched last year in October, I decided that week just to pack the car and go down to the SJJIF Worlds, where I knew nobody, and nobody knew me and knew anything about the belt, and it was just all like cold market, just put out the belts on a table and see what the reaction would be. And I sold out of all the belts that I brought.
Wow.
I didn't mean to even sell out of black belts. I brought those for gifts for professors, but I had 50 of those, and Those
Wow.
all sold out as well. And interesting angles.
Maybe I've got something here.
I didn't, I was expecting, the odd mom to buy it for little Johnny to go out on the mats because he's 3 and can't tie and she's tired of tying and the instructors are, having troubles always keeping their classes on time and whatever. It would be a white belt thing and little sizes. So I brought a lot of those.
Yeah.
But then I brought a variety of colors, including black belts, just to see, and all of the belts sold. And I had a lot of professors telling me that they were going to definitely use them in their tiny tot classes. They bought 10 packs or 20 packs of the white belts in child sizes. But teenagers came up and bought them, orange belts and green belts, and they said, this is great, I'll have no, my roll time is uninterrupted. I'll have no breaks.
This is in judo, obviously.
No, this was jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So this was SJJF IF Worlds. And so it was surprising the angles too. One competitor came up in the middle of the competition and was about to go weigh in. And, hey, you've got those lightweight belts. I was like, I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah.
But he bought the belt, a black belt, and weighed in and finished and came back. And he said, that was fantastic. I just did 7 matches in a row. Not only I made weight, but my belt didn't come off the whole 7 matches.
Well, I think some guys have made a fine art out of making their belt come off.
I know. And stall as
Yeah.
long as we possibly can.
Only get this if your cardio is half decent.
Exactly.
Or if you've got kids.
He brought all his black belt professors and they bought out the rest of my black belt stock. So
Awesome.
it was, kind of the validation.
Did you have an entrepreneurial background before that? Or?
I had done one business before that. In between my stunt work, I had a business for a little while, and it was an RV rental company.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
but complete departure.
Yeah.
I know. It was with my husband's company, and we ran that together for a number of years. But no, invention-wise or startups or anything, no. I just really wanted to help the kids, help the moms, help the instructors. And the mom reaction from this has been unbelievable. They're just like, thank you. It's, the instructor, the old school professor for sure. I know there was going to be pushback or resistance because tradition, me too. I'm very traditional. I want that in my classes. But for the little kids, if anybody's ever taught 10 or 15 little 3 to 6 year olds running around and the belt is the biggest, you're just tying nonstop the whole class and you spend an hour. And there's after
it was
school.
Metamoris back in the day where they tie their belt and they take tape.
Oh.
And they put it around the belt on either side of the knot. Just to stop that belt from coming undone
That stall
during the competition.
in the competition.
Yeah. So it's not a bad idea, but this is faster than that.
For sure, and it can't get grappled off. But I don't know if it's gonna. I haven't approached IBJJF or anything, obviously yet. SJJIF, they were fine with it during that competition to compete in it. I would love
What
to.
about judo? Did judo get accepted?
I don't know yet.
Yeah,
I haven't
okay.
approached the IJF, but certainly for the children's classes, senseis everywhere
Sure.
buying them, and they're loving them for their tiny tots
So you
programs.
got to change the belt out for the competition. Big deal.
Right,
Isn't it?
exactly. But
Awesome.
so far for kids, it's great. And if it adopts into other areas, para-athletes, that association has contacted me a few times.
Right, hard to tie a belt if you only have one arm.
With the fine motor
functional.
skills. Yep. So that's been one lady that wheeled up. She was actually competing at that particular SJJF Worlds was a Para Worlds as well. And she wheeled up and bought a blue belt. She was so happy. She was crying. She says the first time she's ever been able to do up her own belt without 2 instructors putting it on for her.
Wow.
Yeah, so I gave the belt to her, of course, and she's part of a para-athlete association, and so they've approached me as well, so it's
You're
exciting.
going to be a busy woman in the next...
It could be, you never know.
hopefully.
I just want the little kids to get their butts out on the mat on time, that's it. That's the whole aim of this for me.
Yeah, well, you're solving a problem, and that's like...
Yeah. And it's not for everybody, but it'll for some.
Yeah.
It's an
Fair enough.
alternative.
It's so you said you did judo, and then you left judo for a while. Why did you leave?
So back then, if you won the Canadian Nationals, like it was juniors, 13 and under, but senior women's was 13 and up. So
What, 13, 20, 25?
yeah, so I was fighting 25-year-olds when I was 14, 15.
Wow.
So I think it was 14 and a half when I won the first senior women's nationals. And I just started traveling around with the senior women's team, and I think it was a bit too young to be out with, I'd be in the hotel room after the competition or before, and they were out, and I'd be twiddling my thumbs, and they were, 25-year-olds, so they could go off to the bar if it was after the competition. And it was just, not the right time to be. I think had I been 25 and that experience, I was around the world in different countries traveling with the Judo Canada funding, which was amazing, but I wasn't ready for it. And I got burned out, and I kind of, I wanted to be at that sleepover party and go eat McDonald's and have pizza and things like that as a teenager. And so I started traveling 15, I guess, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 in there. And it was just a whirlwind of traveling for tournaments and training. And I got sent to the Kodokan for training camps all the time. And I was sent to Paris. There's a place called INSEP. It's an Institute of Sport. So I can't say it in French. In Paris. And, a dormitory room on my own when I'm 15 to train with the French women's team because they were the best in the world at the time. So things like that, I think, had I been 10 years older, I would have loved the experience. But by the time I hit about 19...
Pass me the Ne-waza and the red wine.
Exactly. I would have been with the ladies at the bar after the competition and been happy. But no, I was in the hotel room. So it was a burnout for me. And at 19... And then also the announcement of we're going to have women's judo brought into the 92 Olympics as an official sport.
So you were kind of in the training cycle for the 88 Olympics?
Yeah, and then they said 92 was going to be officially women's judo was being brought into the Olympics.
Was it a demo sport in 88?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So I was, it's my last World Championships. I'm pretty burned out, and I don't want to hang on to 92. Right. So I stepped away from it. I was doing stunts at the time and motorcycle road racing, and that career was taking off, and I was having fun, superbike racing. And yeah, I just wanted to give stunt work a shot and do that for a while. Of course, had a baby as well, did that for a while. And then it was like the 80s ladies reunion for judo women. Okay. And I got called up. And I was so excited.
I've not heard of the 80s ladies reunion.
It's not a thing. It's just what we call each other. Okay, so all of us that traveled together back in the 80s on the national team, we were having a reunion. And I hadn't been in contact with any of the ladies in forever. And they called up and said, the only caveat to come into this reunion, you have to go do a judo practice, videotape it, take pictures, have evidence of it, and then you can come to the reunion. So we all had to go Google, find a judo club, those of us that had hung up our gi years ago. And I literally remember Googling, where's a judo club near me? And finding a gi in the attic, and going back out. And I didn't think I'd remember anything, but it was so muscle memory. And it just came back. And
you've been doing it at a really high level for really long time.
18 years, yeah. And I just loved it.
Especially the developmental years, yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So when I went back to it, it was just, now this is for me. And I loved it. And I found that joy, like when I was 8 years old, of judo again.
Well, what's fun about it now?
Oh, I love it. It's just great. I can go out and, socialize with everybody. We actually have beers on the mats after. And, it's a great camaraderie in judo. When I was a kid, it was just you're practicing, you're training for 2 hours, then you go into this practice, then you're doing this strength and conditioning, and then you're doing, it was all, towards the Olympics. Now this was for me, it's just for fun. If I want to compete, I compete. I enter at the last minute in a competition to have some fun. It's nowadays masters.
Judo and Jiu-Jitsu.
And Jiu-Jitsu, yeah. And it's just, I found a nice soulful part of judo and jiu-jitsu. And with the masters women, I still compete in the adult division as well, but especially with the masters women around the world, judo or jiu-jitsu, there's just this super camaraderie. Do you compete still in masters jiu-jitsu?
I'm done.
Are you? Yeah, okay.
If they find a way that you can replace every joint in my body
gotcha.
with a single push of the button, then I'll consider competing again.
See, and I think that's where I was lucky because I didn't hammer my body throughout. I took a time away and came back. Now I'm one of the few that's now in judo at masters judo level that still has my body intact.
Oh, okay. So that's the way to do it then.
Could be. I was just maybe fortunate, but I still feel healthy, and those days that I feel like competing, then I enter. And if it's an adult division, great. If it's masters, I love going to like Masters Worlds or Masters Pan Ams, things like that, because immediately your competitors are your best friends and the girls in your division. And you chat with them. I still keep in touch with everybody on Facebook, and we're texting each other all the time and supporting and uplifting. It's not a battle. It's a battle on the mat, but then we're best friends off. So loving it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people who, I don't know, did martial arts as a kid and then drifted away or got busy or...
It'll never leave you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think. You know, just about every masters competitor I've talked to, they had lives, jobs, careers, families, you know, things that took them away from martial arts, but almost everybody drifts back to it.
Yeah.
It seems it doesn't leave you. If you've done it, especially, you know, to the black belt level, even if you take away some time, you seem to come back to it. And then it becomes more about passing on the information and really making a mark with your kids' classes, or how you can help grow the sport, or what you can do to improve the kids' martial arts journey. So I love that part of it now. I'm enjoying teaching the kids' classes and adults too, and just the whole joy of competing when I feel like it now. There's no pressure.
Yeah, I suppose the relief of the pressure is...
Huge.
It makes the... I mean, of course you want to win.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I get just as nervous as when I was 10 years old.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm like freaking out right before a match. But that's a good thing. I think if you don't have those butterflies and those absolute intense nerves, you know, it's to each his own, but I think that's a good thing. It revs you up and adrenaline is there, and that's when you know you're going to do well. So I love the adrenaline of competition, and I think everybody should, if their bodies allow it, do it.
Mm-hmm. Where do people find out more about the belt?
Oh, so it's ntbfightgear.com.
Okay.
Thanks for the shameless plug. NTB actually stands for Never Tie Belt.
Okay.
That's right. It came up with home with a Never Tie Belt.
Not to be confused with a no tie belt. But that's
Right.
more like a karate thing, right?
They call it a karate belt because it just has a little circle of Velcro in the back right there
Right.
to detach and attach. But
It's
if
nice
you
and fast, but not if you're actually trying to
grapple.
wrap the... Yeah.
Yeah, if you're grappling at all, if you're in Judo or Jiu-Jitsu, it just detaches right away. So that's why I designed it, so that it could fold back on itself and then flip over and be against the user's waist, so that it can't get grappled off.
Right.
So yeah, it's exciting.
Well, we did a test. I mean, you had it on.
Oh yeah,
and I
you
was
picked me
holding
up
you
and
like a suitcase.
flung me. That was fun, unexpected.
So, yeah.
I was just turtle waiting for your hooks to go in, and then you picked me up and flung me.
No. Man, taking it back. That's so 10 years ago.
Oh,
now,
forget it.
Now
Yeah.
we just pick people up and
Pick
throw
people
them.
up and throw them. It's awesome.
Okay. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
That was
my
a fun
pleasure.
conversation,
That
and
was
good luck with the belt.
Such a good chat. I thank you. Appreciate it.